Adding a label. In the previous exercise, we created an input element which we didn't include anything to explain what the input is used for. For a user to properly identify an input, we use the appropriate named label element. The label element has an opening and closing tag, and display text is written between the opening and closing tags. To associate a label and an input, the input needs an ID attribute. We then assign the for attribute for the label element with the value of ID attribute of the input, like so. So label for instead of input. Label for equals meal. What do you want? And then closing label. What do you want to eat? And then it's an empty field. The code of a renders what do you want to eat. Look now, users know what the input element is for. Another benefit of using the label element is when this element is clicked, the corresponding input is highlighted inside. Let's see element label in action. Add a label element that is associated with the included input element in the index. Use the for attribute, then add the username within the label. After clearing this checkpoint, click on the username label in the web browser to see it correspond. Right, so add a label element, right? It's associated with it. So, and the label element is associated with the input. Use the for attribute equals.
As you can see, we got a positive match for methamphetamines. Technology doesn't do it, old school will.
Username.
Had this meth reached its destination, it would have been
After clearing this checkpoint, click the username.
broken up and sold.
Yeah, that totals up to 20.
Oh no, it won't work. Right, well,
Liquid methamphetamine.
Fetching a total
I
price
thought I need a closing label.
$1 million.
We'll have a closing label anyway.
Is in process with our intelligence branch, and they will decide whether he can be prosecuted or what.
And you can type in there.
There's no feeling like in the world, you know, that you stop something dangerous from going on the streets, and if we can do this every day, I'd be happy to do this.
I don't even want to show 50 with them. Password input. Think about all these times you have to put sensitive information like a password or PIN into a form. We wouldn't want this information to be seen by anyone peeking over the shoulder. Luckily, we have type equals password attribute for input. An input type equals password element will replace the input text with another character like an asterisk or a dot. The code below provides an example of how to create a password field. So label for user password. Input type equals password ID equals user password name equals you. After the user types into the field, it will look like this. Even though the password field is user text of the password when the form is submitted, value of the text is sent. In other words, if the hunter2 is typed into the password field, user password hunter2 is sent along with the other information in the form. To complete a login page in index.html, we need a password field. Add an input element under the setting label. So label. So add an input element under the setting label. So input type
Recently. This is our first real significant seizure of ammunition for this quarter. So it's just visiting.
About 250